Hello there guys, welcome to another of my live videos, and on this video tonight there is lots to negotiate about. So of course I have give you the breaking news today, and I do believe a lot of other football fans around the globe would have been giving you the breaking news. Of course the Premier League, the EFL fixtures have all been suspended due to the coronavirus. Also, too, it's very unlikely that the Euros will go ahead this year. I think the Euros will be going on next year in 2021. And of course, a lot of matches around the globe have been suspended due to this coronavirus. Obviously, UEFA did confirm themselves today that the Champions League games and the Europa League games next week are also suspended. But the Premier League and the EFL fixtures are suspended for around 2 to 3 weeks. So they are suspended until April the 3rd, the earliest. Then obviously, then it'll be interesting to see, where it goes from there. There's a lot of people coming out saying that the season should be totally void. So now what happened, now reflecting on the suspension to the fixtures of the Premier League, and that, do Liverpool, get the Premier League title? Do they win the Premier League? Of course, as it stands at the moment, Liverpool only need 2 wins from their 9 remaining games to clinch their first ever Premier League title. Who qualifies for the Champions League if the season isn't to continue in that. But you just don't know what's going to happen on April the 3rd. Obviously, if things do die down, then I do presume that the season then will resume. And then obviously the season will obviously, probably finish on later than it should do, because obviously, the season always finishes in May. So maybe the season could end in June, or maybe it could end in July if it was to resume. Obviously, when all these things are sorted out with the coronavirus and that, don't forget, the Football Association have obviously, got to reschedule all the fixtures that have obviously, been postponed and that. So yeah, it is really having a bad effect. But like I mentioned, a lot of football fans will be infuriated, including me. But, public health is more of a priority than football and that. And obviously, you've got Italy that's in lockdown. Obviously, now Arsenal Football Club are in lockdown. I've been hearing some recent news regarding Mikel Arteta, and he's getting better. So that's very, very good to hear, because Arsenal Football Club did confirm on a statement yesterday that, Mikel Arteta was tested positive for coronavirus. Obviously, COVID-19, that's another name for it. Yes, he was, and obviously, due to that, the entirety of the Arsenal first team squad have isolated themselves. Obviously, Mikel Arteta himself has isolated himself. Obviously, Arsenal had to close their training ground due to this. And I think not only Arteta's got it, I think some other players have got it. I think a few Leicester City players have had to isolate themselves. I think, if I'm right, a couple of Everton players have also had to self-isolate themselves. So, this virus is spreading like bad now. But, obviously, the City-Real Madrid game has been cancelled for next week. The City-Arsenal game got cancelled earlier on this week. Obviously, games have been recently played behind closed doors, when obviously, there's no spectators there. And like I mentioned, football is not the same without any fans there. So, yeah, so there's going to be no Premier League football until April the 3rd. And then obviously, we will see what happens then. As for the Champions League games and the Europa League games that have been suspended, I don't think UEFA have yet confirmed how long they will be suspended for. But, the reason why, the league fixtures and that have been suspended is due to what happened to Mikel Arteta. Maybe if that hadn't have happened to Mikel Arteta, then the games would have been going this weekend. But it is, very, very disappointing news and that. So yeah, so do Liverpool win the Premier League now, with this coronavirus? Obviously, if the season was to continue to resume after April, then obviously, they would. But if the season was to end now, would Liverpool get the Premier League title? I don't know, to be quite honest. I think they should do, because obviously, they've won it anyway. They are too far in front. But is now our chase for Champions League qualification over? Obviously, due to this coronavirus. Because obviously now it will change a hell of a lot of things, will this coronavirus and that. But obviously, as it stands at the moment, we're sitting like, 5th in the Premier League. we are 3 points behind Chelsea. And obviously, we want Champions League qualification for next season. So in that aspect, we can attract players to the elite level and get the players that we do want in the summer. And I did say, didn't I think if we can get Champions League qualification, Solskjaer probably will be given another season at the club. I think maybe even if we don't get Champions League qualification, Solskjaer will be given another season at the club. And even if, this season wasn't to resume, I think Solskjaer will be given another season at Manchester United. But there's a few teams in that top four race, and, I think, we've been in a really, really good run of form recently. We're unbeaten in 11 games in all competitions. In this 11-game unbeaten run, we have won 8, we have drawn 3, we have scored 29 goals, we've kept 9 clean sheets, and we've only conceded 2. So we're in a really, really good vein of form. And Solskjaer does deserve to be credited, recently. And I did say, I credit Solskjaer when he deserves to be credited. And I also, too, criticise Solskjaer when he deserves to be criticised. And a lot of Manchester United fans, including me this season, have criticised him. But this is our best vein of form since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the interim manager. This is our best vein of form. So, it is very, very good to see that, we're doing really, really well now. But like I mentioned, it's Bruno Fernandes that's making the difference in the team. Bruno Fernandes has enjoyed a fantastic start to his Manchester United career. 3 goals for Bruno Fernandes now, around 4 assists. And he's making the difference in the team. His decision making is really, really good. He's Bruno Fernandes. And, he's definitely one of the best players we have recruited since the Alex Ferguson era. We have recruited around 30-odd players in since the Alex Ferguson era, but he's definitely, the best signing is at Bruno Fernandes. So at Man United, he's basically replicating what he did in his 2.5 years at Sporting Lisbon. Of course, we paid £68 million for him. So I think he's like our 4th or 5th most expensive signing. And I think Solskjaer is being urged to build a team around Bruno Fernandes. Like I mentioned, we have got quite a few priorities this season, if this season is to continue. Obviously, the Europa League's a priority for us because that's a chance of getting some silverware on the board. Plus, it's another route to Champions League qualification. Also, put into the equation, the FA Cup is a priority for us because that's a chance of us getting some silverware on the board. And that's Man United have got quite a few ambitions in that. But revert back to what I said about Solskjaer. Some people have got different perceptions on him. Some people still say he isn't the right manager for Man United and he isn't a long-term solution. And some United fans, would say, look, we'll give him another season. And I've got to say, we've done really, really well against the big sides this season. I think we've registered 17 points, is it something like that, against top 6 sides this season. We've beaten Man City 3 times out of the 4 games we've played them this season. Solskjaer, by the way, has become the first manager to beat Pep Guardiola 3 times in one season. So that's very, very good. Solskjaer's beaten Chelsea 4 times as a manager since he got recommended in. He's overcome Frank Lampard 3 times. He's beaten Tottenham twice as a manager. He's overcome Jose Mourinho once. Beaten PSG. Drew with Liverpool earlier on in the season. So against the big side, we have done really, really well. But we haven't really replicated that against lower opposition. But yeah, he's been here for nearly 15 months now as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So he has been at the football club over the year. But Solskjaer does believe if he is given another season at Manchester United that he has got many expectations to exceed. Because it is a transition period at the moment. And Solskjaer revealed at the beginning of the year he's hopeful that we can get through this transition period, of course, and that. But take into account, Solskjaer, when he first came in, he was inheriting a mess, basically. Because obviously, analysing it, the vast majority of these players are Jose Mourinho's. Jose Mourinho recommended 11 players in at Manchester United. Jose Mourinho, of course, enjoyed 2.5 years at the football club. And obviously, did win the Europa League and the League Cup in his first season and got a 2nd place in his first season. But obviously, his tenure at Manchester United didn't work out. So obviously, like I mentioned, Solskjaer is still in the process of rebuilding now. But it seems to me now that Solskjaer's got it right because, recently we've been playing as a unit. We've been playing as a team. Our football's been a lot more expansive than what it was earlier on in the season. And, he showed a lot of tactical flexibility, which is very, very good to see. Solskjaer has come out today and he's swiped at Jose Mourinho. he swiped at Jose Mourinho, basically, saying that, he had to overhaul Manchester United, when he came in to replace Jose Mourinho in December 2018. And Solskjaer was aware that a lot of things needed to change. Obviously, the tactics and that needed to change. And don't get me wrong, Solskjaer's been tactically naive in a lot of games this season, but recently it has been totally comparison. Obviously, a lot of things have happened since Solskjaer's come in. Obviously a lot of people saying, he's the worst manager we've had since the Ferguson era. Reflects on his record since he got the job permanently. But, look what he's done since he's come in, Solskjaer. Like I mentioned, did really, really well in that 3-month period when he was the interim manager and that. Obviously, in 3 transfer windows, Solskjaer has recruited 5 players in. Obviously, didn't sign anyone in his first transfer window, but in the 2 previous transfer windows, he recruited 5 players in, and he spent around £220 million. Last summer, he bought James, Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire in, and I think they've been great additions to the squad. And in January, he bought Bruno Fernandes and Odion Ighalo in and that. So I do believe Solskjaer at least needs to be given one more transfer window to see who else he can recommend in. Solskjaer does believe we need at least around 3 signings to be title contenders going on into next season. We need around 3 signings at least. Or maybe even 4 signings. But there is still deficiencies in the squad that do need to be addressed. Manchester United need a centre forward. We'll possibly need a right winger, and we also need a central midfielder in that. Obviously, on the other hand as well, a lot of players have left since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's arrival, so obviously we have generated some money for some of the players that did leave in that. Obviously, we saw Ashley Young leave the football club this year. He went to Inter Milan for 1.5 million after he endured 8.5 years at Manchester United. Obviously, we saw Rojo go out on loan to Estudiantes. Last summer, we saw Darmian go. We saw Smalling go out on loan to Roma. Smalling endured 9 years at Manchester United, so he was a long-serving player. Obviously, we saw, Ander Herrera go. He endured 5 years at Man United. We let him go on a free transfer. We saw Marian Fellaini go. We saw Lukaku go, and we saw Alexis Sanchez go. The good news is that, Sanchez isn't going to be coming back to Man United in the summer. Like Solskjaer said back in January, that Sanchez would have been coming back, but now that is not the case. We're trying to find now a permanent buyer for him because he's on loan at Inter Milan. But despite the fact he's on loan at Inter Milan, we're still paying the vast majority of his wages. But Sanchez endured a difficult 18 months at the football club. Lukaku, you can say we did probably make a mistake by getting rid of Romelu Lukaku. Lukaku did endure 2 years at Manchester United. I thought he was exceptional in his first season, but didn't really replicate that in his second season, Romelu Lukaku. So in the end, he had to leave because Lukaku did lose his place in the team. He did lose his place in the team. But looking at it from a financial point of view, we generated a lot of money for his departure. We got around £70 million for him. So more or less, we recouped the money that was paid for him from Everton a couple of years ago. Obviously, don't forget, we loaned quite a few of our players out as well. Obviously, Dean Henderson, he's out on loan. He's at Sheffield United now, is Dean Henderson. I do expect Dean Henderson to come back to Manchester United after his loan spell ends with Sheffield United. But I've got to say, he has been a revelation for Sheffield United, has Dean Henderson. I've got to be honest with you about that. And I think the club did make the right decision by putting Dean Henderson out on loan because it's gained him more experience. There has been a lot of rumours saying Dean Henderson could become our number 1 goalkeeper when he does return from Sheffield United. I think this is his second loan spell now with Sheffield United is Dean Henderson. So yeah, a lot of players have left since Solskjaer's arrival. Don't forget Valencia left last summer after he endured 10 years at Manchester United. But despite the fact that a lot of players have left since Solskjaer came in, there is still players in the summer that do need to be moved on. I think we need to get rid of around 4 or 5 players this summer. So like I've gone through here, I think the players that need to leave Man United in the summer, I definitely think we need to get rid of Phil Jones. He's one player that needs to go. Jones has been a long-serving player at Manchester United. He's now into his 9th season at the football club and he has endured 8 years here. But his appearances are limited because now he can't even get into the team, can Phil Jones. You can say he's a backup as a centre-half, but, you can we've got a lot of centre-halves in the team. Lindelof and Maguire are our first-choice centre-halves. We've got Bay. He's just come back as well as Eric Bay. I've got element of concerns about him because he always gets injured, does Eric Bay. Tuan Zebe, you can also play him as a centre-half. So we've still got a lot of centre-halves in the team. So I would move Phil Jones on. He's been here since the Alex Ferguson era. Lingard and Pereira, they're two players that I definitely can assure need to be moved on because they're two liabilities, and now their appearances are limited following the arrival of Bruno Fernandes. So I think they need to be moved on. And Jesse Lingard has received a lot of criticism recently, reflecting on his bad performances. And like I mentioned, reflecting on Jesse Lingard's status at the football club and, the number of years he's been here, he should be putting much more better performances out. I think Lingard's got around 16 months left on his contract, or is it just under 16 months left on his contract? But that's one player we do need to get rid of. Pereira needs to go. He's still very, very young, is Pereira. Some people say give him a bit more time, but I have got a lot of element of concerns about him, definitely in that. So yeah, I'd get rid of them. Angel Gomez, I think Solskjaer says, he's the long-term future for Manchester United, so we'll possibly enter negotiations over getting Angel Gomez a new contract at the club. Obviously, his appearances have been limited, and I did say when Solskjaer going to be convinced to give Gomez his opportunities, but has seldom played. The vast majority of his appearances have come in the Europa League of Angel Gomez. We know Chong's staying because Chong signed a new contract earlier on in the week until 2022 with Manchester United. So he signed a 2-year deal. So that's very, very good to see. He's committed his future with the football club. I think David De Gea, not assured, but there's a possibility chance David De Gea could be moved on in the summer. Obviously, there was rumours coming out the other day saying that, Real Madrid are planning to put around the £70 million bid in for David De Gea. I still think we can generate a lot of money for him if he does leave, even though he has been a liability in the last year and a half or so. We can still generate a lot of money for David De Gea. Obviously, he has received a lot of criticism because he has been making a lot of calamitous mistakes as De Gea, but overall, he is still regarded as one of the best goalkeepers in the world. De Gea's been a long servant here. He's now into his 9th season at Manchester United, and he has, enjoyed 8 years here. He's 28, 29. Last September, signed a new contract with the club, within the region of 375 grand a week. So he is the highest paid goalkeeper in the world. But Real Madrid, don't forget, came close to getting him back in 2015. But due to the fax machine on deadline day, the deal never materialised. Don't forget, Juventus and PSG have also expressed their interest in David De Gea. But analysing it, he's had a good career with Man United. He's won everything here domestically. He's won the club's Player of the Year 4 times out of the past 6 seasons, reflecting on his good run of performances. But possibly could be moved on in the summer. Don't get me wrong, it'd help us with our rebuilding process. And it would free up our wage bill a lot if we did get rid of David De Gea. Don't forget, we've got Romero. He's our second choice goalkeeper. Not reliable enough as yet to become our number one, but he's done really, really well in the cup games, But yeah, so maybe David De Gea could be moved on. So I think we'll get rid of around 4 or 5 players in the summer, to be quite honest with you. And I expect around 3 or 4 incomings in the summer. But there's still a lot of players at Manchester United I definitely would be determined to keep because, like I mentioned, I think there's a lot of players that have really galvanised themselves under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Got to say, Luke Shaw's done really, really well since he's come back from injury. And he received a lot of criticism early on in the season, did Luke Shaw, reflecting on his poor form, and his amount of injuries he's had as a Man United player. And he was out for around 2 months, but since he's come back, he's just been absolutely sensational as Luke Shaw. Whether he plays in the back 4 or whether he plays in the back 3, we are now seeing now the best of Luke Shaw, which is very, very good to see. He's had some bad spells in his Man United career. Obviously he had a bad spell under Mourinho because he had a bad relationship with Jose Mourinho, but Jose Mourinho had a lot of bad disputes with our top players, and that's one of the main explanations why it didn't work out under Jose Mourinho. But he's done really, really well as Luke Shaw. Don't forget, he won the double player of the season last season, reflecting on his good run of performances. Scored last week against Derby. That was his second goal for the club. in his club career. That was his second goal in his club career since his arrival from Southampton. So yeah, I've been very, very impressed with him. I've got to say, I think in the games Juan Mata's played, he's also done really, really well. He doesn't start a lot now. I've got to say, he's one of the players I would be determined to keep because he's done really, really well at Man United, and I think he's a good backup to Bruno Fernandes because don't forget, you can put Juan Mata as a number 10 or you can put him on the right. Same sort of thing with Lingard, but, we just can't seem to get the best out of Lingard when we're playing. But Juan Mata, does well, when he gets them opportunities. Some people believe we need to play Juan Mata more. Mata's now into his 6th season at Manchester United. We paid around £40 million from Chelsea, but I think he's enjoyed a good career with the football club as Juan Mata. I've got to say, I think, Martial's recently rejuvenated himself. Obviously, he is out injured at the moment, and Martial's sustained quite a few injuries this season, and I think it's really had a bad effect on Anthony Martial, if I'm going to be quite honest with you. He's received a lot of criticism during his Man United, tenure so far. He's now into his 5th season at the club, is Anthony Martial. Did really, really well in his debut season under Louis van Gaal and that. And I think he's really rejuvenated himself recently. He made a collision with a goalpost against Man City. So this is why, he didn't play yesterday against Lask. Martial's been playing in that number 9 role this season. That's not his predominant position. His predominant position is out wide on the left. So some people are saying we should revert Martial back to the left-hand side and that. But Martial scored over 60 goals for the club in 200-odd appearances since his arrival from Monaco. But I've been very, very impressed with him. I think, James, he hasn't been so good in the last month, but I'd still say he's a long-term solution for Man United. Daniel James, we got him from Swansea, £15 million. And when we did sign him, I didn't expect James to play as many games to the extent as he has done, but to be fair, he has played a lot of games, and I think Solskjaer's been overplaying him, to be quite honest with you, but it's with how good he did at the beginning. This is why, we played Daniel James a lot, but he will be very fatigued now with the amount of games he's played. Don't forget, he's only still very, very young. I've been impressed with Wan-Bissaka. He's definitely flourishing as a Manchester United player. He didn't play against Lask, did Wan-Bissaka, but I've got to say, a very, very good right back. One of the best in the Premier League, because we're now starting to see the attacking side of his game. Also, his defensive contributions very, very good. He's Wan-Bissaka. Maybe still needs to improve a little bit on his attacking intent, but defensively, absolutely sublime. Definitely, he's Wan-Bissaka. Maguire, I think he's done really, really well. Maguire, since he came in from Leicester last summer. Fred and McTominay have also done really, really well. They complement each other fantastically well in our midfield. We seem to get the best out of Fred, whether he's playing alongside Matic or whether he's playing alongside McTominay. Even when he plays alongside Pogba, we'll get the best out of Fred. Fred has received a lot of criticism. He was very, very good in Ukraine with Shakhtar Donetsk. When we had him under Mourinho, never really got the opportunity. But since Solskjaer's come in, he's had his chances and he has really galvanised himself. McTominay, he's had an injury this season, a bad injury, but now he's back. He's doing really, really well. Still don't know, though, if he's a long-term solution for Manchester United. But these are all the players that I've just said to you who I would be determined to keep, who I think have really improved. I think Lindelof at the back alongside Maguire's done really, really well. So I've also got to give him a lot of credit, definitely. Obviously, Man United have still got injuries, and, we have had a lot of injuries this season, but injuries is not excusable. Obviously, Rashford is a long-term absentee. He's out with a back injury, and Rashford has actually been one of our best players this season. Like I said, I don't think the Euros are going to go ahead this year. So, like I said, Rashford won't be involved anyway. I think he did say he's expected back in April, is Marcus Rashford. But yeah, he's out with a back injury. Lee Grant is a long-term absentee. Pogba now is close to return. Like Solskjaer said, he's stepping up his fitness regime and that. But I definitely can assure Pogba will be back if the games are to resume on April the 4th. Pogba will definitely be back by then. Because obviously, before the league and that got suspended due to the coronavirus, Solskjaer did actually reveal he will be back in training next week and that. This is what Solskjaer said. But the earliest we were looking at Paul Pogba being back was for the Manchester derby. But obviously, he wasn't involved in the game against Manchester City and that. But I think, we have got a really, really good squad, because a lot of money's been invested into our team over the years. Like I mentioned, there must have been around £1 billion that's been spent at Man United in the last 6 or 7 years on recruiting players in. and this was disregarding what was spent under Ferguson. You know, there was £67 million spent under David Moyes. He brought Matta and Fellaini in. Obviously, you know, Fellaini's no longer here now because he went to China in 2019. Obviously, you know, Louis van Gaal, he spent £250 million. He recruited a lot of players in, also let players go. He brought players like Schneiderlin, Schweinsteiger, Memphis Depay, Falcao, Di Maria, you know, Daley Blind, you know, Louis van Gaal brought all them players in, and there's still some players here now from the Van Gaal era. And like I mentioned, Jose Mourinho spent around £400 million at the football club and that. So a lot of money's being invested at Manchester United. We've also got the highest wage bill in the Premier League. So let's just put that into the equation and that. But I did say, didn't I, going on into next season, I expect us to enjoy a better season this next season than what we have seen this season, to be quite honest with you, because I haven't been too satisfied this season. Because I did say at the start of this season, I expected us to have a better season this season than what we saw last season, because last season was a huge disappointment because we finished 6th last season. That's not the lowest we've finished in the league. I think the lowest we've ever finished was 7th, back under the David Moyes era and that. But I don't think Man United will sack Solskjaer. They won't sack Solskjaer, you know, because we've already sacked 3 managers since the Alex Ferguson era. Of course, we sacked David Moyes, we sacked Louis van Gaal, and we sacked Jose Mourinho on that. And Manchester United are not really known for a sacking football club. But, you know, I know what Solskjaer's trying to do. You know, he's trying to bite into our history. And he's hopeful now this team, this day and age, can replicate what the team did under Alex Ferguson. That, because don't forget, Ferguson did develop a lot of young players. Ferguson did develop a lot of young players in that. So, and Solskjaer's revealed, you know, he still wants to continue the policy of recruiting young players to Manchester United. But there is a lot of players on our agenda. Like I mentioned, we're in for Sancho, we're in for Grealish. You know, there's been a lot of narratives in the media going on about Harry Kane. Obviously, you know, there's been a lot of talks going on about Jude Bellingham and that, saying, you know, obviously on Monday, he was at Carrington training ground. His parents had negotiations with our executives. Obviously, Ferguson himself held talks with Jude Bellingham over a move to Man United in the summer. But yeah, so he's another player on our agenda. And I do believe the club are going to spend a substantial amount this summer on, you know, bringing more players in. And I think we'll back Solskjaer, because Ed Woodward was talking the other week, and he basically said, you know, he's laid the foundations for long-term success with Solskjaer. Quite a lot of our players are still determined to back him and that. But maybe he does deserve time. He's still got around, is it 2.5 years left on his current contract at the football club. But longer Solskjaer is in the job, the longer he's going to gain more experience in that. Yes, he is. And like I mentioned, I think Man United should sign Odion Ighalo, like I mentioned on my video this morning. We should sign him permanently in the summer, reflecting on how good he's done. He's enjoyed a fantastic start to his Manchester United career as Odion Ighalo. Is it 4 goals now in 3 starts for the Nigerian? Like I said, he's been a Manchester United fan since he was a boy. It's an option of a different type of centre forward, and he's the focal point is Odion Ighalo. We've got him on a 6-month loan deal at the moment, and we're paying like a third of his wages. But Solskjaer did make an admission saying that, you know, we could actually, you know, get Odion Ighalo on a permanent transfer and that. But yeah, you know, he's done really, really well. His goal was very, very good. He scored against Lask yesterday in the Europa League. His goal was absolutely, you know, sensational. Lovely assist by Bruno Fernandes. And, you know, his goal came off the inside of the crossbar, did Odion Ighalo. He scored 2 against Derby, and he scored 1 against Club Brugge in the last round of the Europa League. So, yeah, he's made the admission, Odion Ighalo. We've had a lot of positive news coming out regarding Pogba. You know, Solskjaer did say, you know, Paul Pogba will remain at Manchester United next season. And, you know, Paul Pogba revealed himself that he will be, you know, well, he wants to stay at the football club. The main explanation why he wants to stay at the football club is because he's excited about the prospect of playing alongside Bruno Fernandes. He believes he can form a good partnership with Bruno Fernandes, does Paul Pogba. But yeah, reportedly now he wants to commit his long-term future in Man United, does Pogba, and he does want to extend his contract with the football club. I think Solskjaer revealed not too long ago he was set to hold talks with Paul Pogba regarding his future, and he's had them talks now with Paul Pogba. So Pogba's perceptions changed all of a sudden, because obviously his perception before was to leave Manchester United this summer. He also wanted to leave Man United last summer. The likes of Madrid, Juventus, PSG, they've all expressed their interest. Don't forget, Barcelona have been in for him in the past and that. But we can extend Paul Pogba's contract. It will end his long-running transfer saga because he's been subject to a hell of a lot of transfer speculation since he rejoined from Juventus back in 2016 and that. So it's good news now coming out regarding Paul Pogba and that. But but Solskjaer's been delighted, with the team's recent performances because they have been very, very good. Like I said, if Solskjaer was to be sacked as Man United, more than likely Pochettino would be our next manager. There's been a hell of a lot of talks this season about Pochettino becoming our next manager, and that earlier on this season he was in negotiations with the football club, was Pochettino. I think, last summer we should have got a director of footballing. That I said that's one of the structural changes that we need at Man United. Because then if we'd got the director of footballing, then Ed Woodward could have moved away from the footballing decisions. But, there hasn't only been problems with the management this season, been problems with, the club's ownership, problems with Ed Woodward and all of that. And I did say we need to see a variety of changes at the football club. And one thing as well I can assure Manchester United cannot do is, what we can't do is, we can't replicate what Liverpool have done. We can't go 30 years without winning another title, and I think Solskjaer has been warned about this. So now, with the Premier League suspended, like I mentioned, with a lot of games across the globe getting postponed and that, what do you think? Do you think the season should resume after April the 4th, or do you think, the season should be void completely? Does it change the context of anything? Like I mentioned, do Liverpool get the league if it is to end now? Do Man United get qualification for the Champions League if it ends now? The teams from the Championship get promoted to the Premier League if it ends now. I don't know. I really, really don't know, to be quite honest with you. So anyway, guys, join, comments, like, on the channel if you do consider subscribe as always, and take care. God bless, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.